So, first off, welcome to AVS 2014. And thank you very much for coming. One big comment that I'd like to make is thank you to all of you. A lot of changes happened with this particular AVS, including a new fee to attend, a new location, it's farther away from campus, and a new direction in terms of a big focus on development. So to have this kind of support, which even surpassed my secret inside number that I didn't communicate to anyone, pretty incredible. So thank you very much for taking the chance and coming to this, and hopefully we all learn a lot and share a lot of cool ideas. My name's Jeremy Mosher. I guess I was the director of AVS this year, and I am from the Calgary community, so I was the president, and our new president is actually here today, Adam Shetler, third day on the job or something like that. I'd like to touch on a couple quick thank yous and welcomes before we get things started today. First off, MBNA Canada. So obviously this event did have a cost, but without MBNA Canada, it would be money multiples higher. So we're very thankful that they too believe in volunteer development. So thank you to MBNA. Also, thank you to the Donald Gordon Conference Center. This is a world-class facility that hosts Queen's School of Business executive education for 50 out of 52 weeks a year or something like that. So to carve out some time in their schedule to make sure that we could come here today is pretty special. So thank you to them and their team, Charlie and John and many others. I'd also like to thank, and this is a big one, Sarah and Marianne. They did an incredible amount of work to put this event together, day and night type stuff, and accepting my emails at absurd hours. So thank you very much, guys, for putting this together. There's also a number of other people that I'd like to thank from Queens, and I'm going to say their names because they're all very important, and I apologize if I ruin your name or I forget you, and hopefully I don't. Jessica Cohen, Kirsty Milne, Nikki Remillard, Deb Shea, Kim Day, Catherine Villela, Andrea Gunn, Michael Onesy, Celia Russell, Karen Zeliniak, I practiced that one too, Christy Garneau, Ben Seawald, Taylor Jennings, and Judy Griffiths. A great team of people and all very committed to making sure this happened today, so thank you very much. The thank yous continue. We also had a fantastic strategic committee that helped shape a lot of the themes that we're going to go over. So Zowdy Culbreth, Adam Shetler, Sue Bates, Nick Godwin, who couldn't join us today, Sarah and Marianne. Thank you very much. Now, here's the fun part. I'm going to touch on a few communities, and if you are part of this community, I'd encourage you to throw your hand up. That way we can all start breaking down some walls and recognizing each other, because that's a big effort on behalf of this AVS particularly. So anyone from the QUAA board and the executive, thank you very much for coming. University Council. Yeah, we had a great turnout from Council. Thank you very much, guys. How about the QSAA? Woo! The branches community. Yeah! Woo! The reunions community. Yeah! Staff, advancement, alumni relations, everyone from Queens. And did I miss anyone? I know Queens Players is here, but I don't think Peter's been able to get here yet. Hopefully I didn't forget anyone. Sports programs, yeah! The booster clubs and everything. Oh. So now on to AVS. So the big thing that we're trying to accomplish with AVS this year is building sustainable organizations. And what does that mean? Ironically, it means let's all think beyond ourselves and make sure that our organizations can survive past us. Within that, we're going to have a few sessions that are both educational and with some discussion. So our first session, which I'm standing in front of right now, is educational. And the entire effort here is we're going to try and dig into what each of the pillars of our volunteer community contribute to the community, how they do it, and better, we can all think about how we're doing it in terms of creating value for each other. The second session is going to be a big focus on succession planning. So again, that reaches towards making sure that our organizations outlive us. Pretty important topic, and luckily this year we have Paul Juniper joining us, and Paul's actually a renowned speaker nationally in terms of digging into this particular topic. So pretty exciting that he carved out some time in his schedule to join us. After Paul, we're going to have Scott Carson, and he's going to jump in and talk about volunteer recruitment and development. And again, this really reaches towards succession, making sure that we're building strong bench strength, and again, encouraging our organizations to live beyond us. And one other thing that I'd highlight, and I'm pretty excited about this, there's a big team at Queen's who has put together the Volunteers Opportunities Directory. And what that really is a resource for all of us to look towards in terms of bringing people on board and also developing them. And so Sarah and Marianne are going to be touching on that after this session. With that in mind, we will get things started with session number 1. I'm just going to quickly introduce all our panelists here, and then I will let everyone kick things off. So speaking first, we're going to have Jess Joss. Jess has been extremely involved in the volunteer community for a very long time, including 10 recent years working with the QUAA board, most recently as the president of the board, although George is coming in. We also have Judith Brown. Judith is the Associate Vice Principal of Advancement and the Executive Director of Alumni Relations. She's been obviously very involved in this community for a long time, since 1993. And she's going to really dig into the staff, the team, and how they all create value and then derive value from all of our activities. Next, we will have Jess Beekbane. Jess is representing the Queen's Student Alumni Association, and this is a really cool initiative that's grown over the last few years, and it's bringing students into the alumni community, and interestingly, while they're still students. It makes sense, I guess. And so the neat thing about that, and I know a number of communities are trying to do the same thing, basically encouraging students to be aware of ways to get involved before they leave campus. That way, they come to our communities. After Jess, we're going to have Heather Black, who was a previous president of the QUAA and is currently a university counselor and an executive committee member. And then after Heather, we're going to have Lon next. Lon Knox. Sorry, Lon. Lon's currently the university secretary, but he's done a number of projects before that, including work as general counsel at Trent University. He also worked with the city of Oshawa, close to where I'm from, on legislative services, and before that, he was an associate in the law firm of Brooks, Harrison, Mann, McCracken, and Slesser. And so with that, I'll pass you the floor, Jess, and thank you very much, panelists, for joining us today.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to echo the warm welcome that Jeremy just gave. Thank you for carving the time out of your busy work lives, your busy family lives, and trekking to Kingston. It's delightful to have you here for AVS. My goal is to give you a bit of an overview about what the Queen's University Alumni Association does. And let's see. That doesn't look like mine. Okay, there we go. And then from there, answer any questions that you may have. A lot of it is sort of fairly overview. At any point in time, I'm quite comfortable if you just want to throw your hand up, and I can add a little bit more detail at that point in time. So we're going to touch on the mission, who we are and what we do, quick facts, how to get involved, because that's what we're looking for, is people to get involved. Our short 60-second story, just giving you a little bit of context, and then some key linkages about how we fit with all the other organizations at this table. So you've probably seen this one before, but I'm just going to read it out anyways because it's well crafted, and we tweak it on a regular basis and love it to bits. So, to reach out and foster a lifelong association with Queen's, to engage our members in the life and the work of the university, and to serve the alumni community in all of its diversity. And if we break that down a little bit, one of the things that we talk about is a lifelong association with Queen's, and that can be before you're even a Queen's student. That can be when you're considering coming to Queen's, as a Queen's student, your association, but also as an alumni. And it also includes, in a broader sense, that the families that support people going to Queen's. So we have a quite a broad group that we target, although mostly we work with alumni. And in terms of engaging our members in the life and the work of the university, that's everything from having, working with the branches for them to host events, organizing events through the QUA board itself, but also supporting reunion coordinators and other groups that are helping bring people back either to campus or alumni gathering around the world. So we like acronyms, and you get a mouthful of them. So representing the QUAA, or the Queen's University Alumni Association, everyone who has, it is an association. It's a non-dues paying association that was started in 1926. It's governed by a constitution and bylaws, like all good organizations. An interesting little piece of trivia is that at one point, there was a separate association for women, the Alumni Association, but that was disbanded in 1990. But it came first. Of course it did. It was organized and on track. But then we decided to come together collectively in 1990, and anything to do with the QUAA is out of Summerhill. So if you've ever seen that beautiful building on campus and wonders what it's for, half the side is for the principal's residence and official receptions, and the other half is alumni relations, and the QUAA is housed there, and so is the QSAA. So who belongs to the QUAA? First of all, in this room, who belongs to the QUAA? Let's see, let's take a poll. Excellent, okay. So that's a trick question, because one of the things is that you are a member, not only if you have graduated and received a diploma or a degree from Queen's, but also if you have attended classes for one full session an academic year, and that class has gone on to graduate. So it's interesting that there are people, I have friends who perhaps never graduated from Queen's and yet are still classified as Queen's alumni, and I have to let them know that they're actually members of our association. So currently there is 644, I'll give you the slide, 644 alumni worldwide. Well, some of them we're not too sure about how well they're living, but they do have a heartbeat, so they classify. And then this number is going to be going up dramatically in June, because every June we have convocation, and there's new, fresh, they go from being pre-alumni to actually being alumni. So we look forward to welcoming new graduates soon. What is the QUAA Board of Directors? So sometimes, this slide's here because sometimes you'll hear the QUAA, and what really people mean is the QUAA Board, and sometimes they mean the association as a whole. So just to break down a little bit about what the QUAA Board of Directors is. It's a 12-person group of volunteers. It's led by an executive. The structure is such that there's a president and 2 executive vice presidents. Every year it's installed at an AGM at Alumni Assembly. All of you will be there tomorrow. You will love it. It'll be fascinating. It'll be fabulous. There'll be great reports. So that's 9:45 in your schedule tomorrow morning. But it's a really important part of making sure that there's transparency, making sure that there's full disclosure about the financials, and welcoming people that are joining the board and thanking people for their service. So it is a really important part of the Alumni Association's role. We work really closely with the Department of Alumni Relations to plan and to execute the programming. I would say, I always refer to them as staff partners, but Judith and I have talked previously about it's almost 2 boats sort of rowing in tandem. Although we sometimes are doing slightly different things, the goals and the destinations are definitely the same. And that's one of the things that makes this a fabulous volunteer organization. I've been in volunteer organizations before where if you had the idea, you also had to be prepared to set up the table, distribute the flyers, and clean up afterwards. And there was no professional support. So to be in an organization like this where the ideas come along with a fabulous team of really, really professional, great, enthusiastic people that can make things come to fruition makes this job an absolute joy. We have 2 planning retreats, generally one associated around John Orr in November and one sometime in the springtime. And we also have monthly conference calls where we liaise with our staff partners, members of the executive, the QSAA also attends, and that's the way we keep our communications open. And it's great to touch base on a regular basis, but I would say the 2 retreats, it's amazing how much traction you get when you're face-to-face, and how much those little conversations to the side can really bring a board together and cohesively. So how do new members get involved in the QUAA Board of Directors? Well, basically, first of all, you have to be interested. So what we look for is expressions of interest, whether it's coming directly from an individual or perhaps it's a staff partner that's worked with them on a particular branch event and said, hey, this person looks like they're really keen and looking to get involved a little bit more. This is submitted to the Leadership Development Committee chaired by the EVP Volunteer Recruitment and Recognition. Raise your hand. Sue Bates. So if you have any questions, Sue is a great resource. The LDC regularly meets. We take a look at incoming applications, and what we take a look at is people that have served in the branch or reunion network, people who have had some committee experience, and they're looking to work their way into the board and move through it and see if there's a match between skill sets and interests and also the availability of positions. But it's always good to start asking early, take a look at, maybe some things that you're looking towards in the future. Talk to Sue, a great resource if you're considering a transition. Now, this is fairly small print, but basically what it is we tried to boil down the QUAA and the 6 section story. And I think it might be in your packages. Did it? is it in the packages, anyone? Okay, anyways, basically, it's just breaking down some of the points in terms of the lifelong association with Queens, and it's talking about how we keep the spirit alive from prospects right through to post-graduation, how we work closely with existing students. Our programming includes students, recent graduates, which we refer to as young alumni, and some demographic areas happen to have young alumni-specific branch committees, and through to Tricolor Guard, which is 50 years post-graduation, and always one of my favorite events at homecoming is the Tricolor Guard dinner. You get some really good stories there of the way things were. We work on engaging alumni in what is going on at the university. So we work closely with the Alumni Relations Department. We help set priorities. We plan and deliver our programs. But the communication is very much two-way, so it's very symbiotic. We also try and make sure that we're reaching out to alumni and providing open lines of communication, whether it be through print, email, or social media, looking to receive feedback, get a lot of suggestions that way as well, which is great. Something that any volunteer board promotes is volunteerism and volunteering, and I think that's something that's been very fundamental to our organization. It's not even necessarily that you have to be volunteering for the QUA board. It's the fact that you're giving back to the greater Queens community, because there's lots of different ways. There's reunions, there's sports booster clubs, there's branches, there's lots of different ways to get involved, but it's all for the collective good of our favorite alma mater. We provide alumni with perspective on what's going on campus. We provide the university with feedback from alumni and representation on different committees. And we work closely with staff, student, and faculty on current issues and programming. And we serve the alumni community in all its diversity. And I think this means a lot of different things. It means that we have a global branch network. It means that we try and bring resources from the QUA on the road to different areas, Mini-U in the Castle, different events in, Mini-U last 2 years ago in Winnipeg, different things like that, trying to support those type of programs and getting out. But it also is trying to get different groups, and perhaps groups that maybe don't necessarily identify with the whole broad perspective, but looking at a Aboriginal alumni chapter, or particularly people that are coming in through a particular sports venue, trying to make sure it's open and inclusive, and that we really are being a warm umbrella to access the university when you're no longer on campus. One of the things that I truly love is acknowledging the accomplishments of the alumni through the QA-sponsored Gala Awards dinner tomorrow night. If you've never been to one, when you hear the stories of what some fellow alumni have achieved, you get a little bit sort of tingly, and then the bagpipes come on. It's just a fabulous experience, and it makes you so proud of your degree and so proud of the people that you've had the opportunity to share the different auditoriums with and so on. So if you do have a chance to attend tomorrow night, enjoy it, and it's always something, reading their bios and what these people have accomplished is amazing. We also do a grants and loans program, and I think this is something that's really neat because it gives us a tie to the campus, and it helps us. We support different, tomorrow in the AGM, which you will all be at and love. You'll see the breakdown of exactly where the grants and loans go, but it helps a lot of different on-campus events and local events and organizations. And then there's also the QUAA Special Projects Fund. So these are ways that the QUA as a whole can give back to the campus community, give back to the university and to other alumni. We also promote benefits for the alumni, better pricing on things. One of the things that I think is one of our best kept secrets is the Via Rail and 15% off anytime you take Via Rail, just because you have your alumni card. So things like that are very real. The MBNA program, insurance, 10% off at Softmark, all these different things. So there's a lot of value there. Shoes, exactly. Shoes, travel, it all goes together. Shoes, yes, exactly. I should have led with that one. So scrap my presentation, we get you a discount on shoes. The rest of it's pretty good too. In terms of key linkages, we work really, really closely with the QSAA. The QSAA president attends the monthly meetings and the QA planning retreats, but it's also more than that. Sometimes when we're looking at executing a program or looking at rolling something out that might affect young alumni, it's great to talk to existing students about what the current campus is, the current environment is on campus, and how things maybe have changed. Although we feel like we were just on campus, not all of us were just living here full time. So it's good to get a good perspective that way. And so we work very closely with the QSAA. And also we have a lot of opportunity, or at least I did in my role as president, to work closely with current student politicians, which has been a great pleasure. In terms of governance, we closely liaise with the principal and AVP Alumni Relations and VP Advancement. The principal, I'm sorry? Next slide. Yeah, this is one of my key things. I get on my roll, and slides be damned. Board of Trustees is something that happens on a quarterly basis, and it's a really interesting opportunity. It's a governance body, and you'll hear more about it, but it's a great group of engaged people that really care about the university and are looking at it from a more of a business and management proposition, but a great opportunity for the QA to be represented there as an observer and an active member of what used to be the Advancement Committee and is now called External Relations. University Council. We have University Councillors here. We're delighted that you are. University Council is another governing body of the university, and there are 6 University Council members that are appointed to serve as members of Alumni Assembly, and University Council has a very active role in selecting the Chancellor and has a number of different committees, and the QA tries to keep very strong relations with the University Council. And I'm going to give you a slide. So you may have met a bunch of these people at lunch. Just about everybody was able to make it today. That is the incoming board to be ratified, but it gives you a little bit of idea of the structure. And again, if you have any questions about the structure or how to get involved in it in the future, I'd be delighted to answer. But Sue, the EVP, Recruitment and Recognition, is full of answers. So I know there's lots of other people to speak. But you know how to get them if you don't have them yourself. So happy to answer any questions, but there's other people to speak as well, and I'll be around after, should you wish.
Thank you. Should I do that? Does this make it easier to hear? Yeah, better? Okay. All right. We'll try. All right, so thank you very much, Jess, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to round out Jess's presentation about how alumni volunteers and staff in the Department of Alumni Relations work together in service to both the university and its alumni. So today I'm going to cover 3 topics. Talk a little bit about the dynamic of the partnership between the Alumni Relations Department and the Alumni Association, talk a little bit about the context in which we are planning right now, and talk a little bit about our priorities for the next fiscal year, which begins in less than a month. So I wanted to start with thinking about the things that we share. As you can see, what we share is powerful. We share a mission. We're grounded by the same mission, which is engaging alumni in the life and work of the university. We plan together. We work together as we actually make things happen, those things that we have planned. We share resources. And perhaps most importantly, we share a common aspiration, which is to inspire educated alumni stakeholders. Now, what we mean by that are alumni who are informed, involved, and invested. Informed about the university's mission and how we are working to actually meet that mission and the university's social purpose. Involved, that means participating to the extent that they are able, and invested. And by invested, I mean not only financially invested, as important as that is, I mean also intellectually invested, emotionally invested. In other words, a meaningful relationship. And we seek that relationship lifelong. As important as the ways in which we are similar, those things that we share, are the ways in which we are different. So I will touch on 3: experience, perspective, and networks. So I hope folks can see the slide from the back. Are you able to read that from the back? So the ways in which we complement each other, the depth of the alumni relations staff as we seek to provide professional, we seek to become more and more content specialists in a profession that is changing all the time, which is the advancement profession, and specifically alumni relations. The ways in which we benefit, obviously, from all of you in the room are the very different kinds of backgrounds and expertise that all of you bring. And that's particularly important when we're trying to improve the quality of decision making. That is what we are confronted with. We face challenges. We need to make difficult decisions. So we certainly benefit from having the breadth that you bring, perspectives that are different. Staff bring the understanding of an insider, how things get done, how we can influence that, And volunteers bring the all-important perspective of the outsider, of the customer. It's important to understand that in alumni relations, we don't do alumni relations to our alumni, and we don't do alumni relations for our alumni. We do alumni relations with alumni. So being able to work hand in hand with alumni is absolutely critical. And finally, the department and the association each bring a network. So the multiplicity of our networks shared is one of the key ways in which we broaden our reach. A little bit about the context, a snapshot of our planning context. I've chosen one element from each of 5 key drivers that are in play right now as we begin to plan. And those 5 key drivers are the initiative campaign, post-secondary education sector, the Office of Advancement, the Alumni Association, and the university. So let me start with the initiative campaign. Maybe folks have read recently about some of the amazing transformational gifts that alumni have made, $10 million gifts. These are wonderful gifts. Soon it'll be our turn. It'll be our time. Those of us who are not in a position to make those kinds of gifts, but who nonetheless can get the satisfaction of knowing that we helped our school, that we helped the university as best we could by participating in this campaign when the time comes for us to do that, when we're asked, that we will say yes. Everybody is talking budget these days, so that's not a new thing, but what it underscores for me is the importance of the quality of decisions that we make. So again, it's the diversity of thought that's going to help us reach a better decision than the one that we would make if we had only ourselves to rely on. The Office of Advancement, we're entering the 4th year of our 5-year strategic plan, which was built around the initiative campaign. So we're thinking now about what are the next priorities, what are the next strategic directions that we need to be pursuing. As far as the Alumni Association, just want to highlight one thing that is relatively new. It's certainly something that hasn't happened in my experience since I think we thought Helen Cooper, George, was the last alumni president. I'm referring to having local leadership of the association. Not only one president who is local to Kingston, but also an executive vice president. So I'm interested and curious and hopeful about the changes that will bring, because we have 11,500 alumni who are in the Kingston region. So how can we better leverage that particular group? And finally, we're approaching the 175th anniversary of the university. So how do alumni the world over want to be involved in celebrating that? This is a slide about the distinction between what we're doing this fiscal year and what we will begin to do next fiscal year. So this is a story about continuity and change. We will be continuing to pursue the same 4 goals. You can see them up there: revenue profile, engagement, organizational capacity, as we've been pursuing throughout the life of the strategic plan. But there are some things that will change on the engagement front. Specifically, we're looking at the next generation. How do we engage that demographic that Jess referred to as recent graduates? Often they are also young, but they are recent graduates. So we want to know what kind of relationship they are seeking with the university. We hope that they are seeking a relationship with the university. And if they are, how are we relevant for them? How can we remain relevant for them? All right, and then my final slide is this one. These are the individuals who work with association volunteers every day. And I want to say that for us, I think I speak for every single person in that department, the privilege of working with volunteers is really the heartbeat of our department. It's something that we feel privileged to do that. And so I just want to end with a great big thank you to all of you in the room. I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for your leadership. And thank you for the honor of working with you all. So thanks very much to you.
Next slide. Do we want to make it a little bit bigger? Expand it? Oh, perfect. There we go. Great. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jessica Beekbane, and I'm currently the VP of Volunteers for the Queen's Student Alumni Association. I'm also in my 4th year of commerce at Queen's, about to graduate. It's a little scary and exciting at the same time, seeing that I get so many great opportunities that I still get to be a part of with the university. I'm so grateful and so excited to be here to talk to you today. I would like to discuss a little bit about how we're going to bridge the gap between the current students on campus with our volunteers and our alumni. So I first want to tell you a little bit about the Queen's Student Alumni Association. So we exist to connect students to their future as alumni. And we do this by helping them prepare for their life after Queen's by providing outside of the classroom skills. We really want Queen's students to understand that they're a part of a bigger community that exists of 134,000 alumni living and in 156 countries. So how do we do this exactly? We do it through our programming, and our first one that we put on is our backpack to briefcase events. And these are the outside classroom skills that I mentioned previously. So some of the events that we've put on are resume workshops, interview skills, networking. And from that picture up there, one of our successful events that we had this past year was our professional headshot event. So students could get a free headshot that they could use for their LinkedIn profile or any other professional purpose. And that's something that's really great for us to connect to students on campus. We also have our alumni speaker events, and this is where we bring back high-profile alumni. For instance, we brought back Anna Olson, the celebrity chef. She is one of my favorite alumni that I've seen speak at Queen's, and she talked about her career path, and it was just a huge turnout. I believe we had about 400 students come out, and it was a really great opportunity for students to learn about how she got to where she is today. We also have our student transition, the Q Your Future. This is something that's going to be heavily implemented for next year. It's going to prepare those 4th year students for their life as alumni. One of the events that we do put on, Grad Bash, which I hope you are all able to attend this afternoon. It's a really great celebration, and we kind of jump start on those branches, speeches that we can get students involved in once they graduate. Lastly, we have our volunteer ambassadors. We hire about 27 ambassadors a year for our team. They help put on the events. They also attend several of the events. For instance, the John Orr in Toronto, they attend that dinner. And it's a really great opportunity for us to connect the students that we have on campus, and they also get to develop their own professional skills. We have our slogan, Students for a Short Time, Alumni for a Lifetime. This is really something that we abide by. Any of the programming that we put on, if it doesn't fall in line with this statement, we don't move forward with it. We want it to be useful for students once they graduate. Moving on to the good stuff, connecting QUSA with our volunteers. This is really important for us. We have several ways that we're able to do that, and the first one is through homecoming. So if you want to be involved with the planning process, or even while you're on campus and just coming out to the events, we really appreciate that. For example, we put on a crest painting event this past year. We painted the crest of 87 in 2017. It was a great way for us to get current students, QSAA volunteers, as well as alumni out. And you can see from the picture there on the bottom that it was a really, really fun event. We also have the alumni speaker events that I mentioned. If you know of any alumni that we should be bringing back to campus to speak to students about their career path, we would love to be put in contact with them. This also follows with our backpack to briefcase events that I mentioned earlier. If you know of an industry expert, something that we should be advising students on that's going to be important for their life after Queen's, we would love to know about that. And then we have grouped kind of the last big chunk all together, the branch, the award galas, the luncheons, as well as the parent events. We are constantly sending students to these events. We like to have the current students at those events to describe what's happening on campus. For instance, Alfie's getting a name change to the underground. Alumni want to hear about that, so we make sure that we have that presence there and are able, right? It's important.
It's like Back to the Future.
Right? Everybody's had some good memories there. And so that's a really great way for us to connect you, the volunteers, with the current students on campus. So we have some opportunities here, and that's really connecting you with students. The first one is to leverage your QUA and your branches to get involved. It's how you're going to find out about what's going on campus and really get to connect with current students. Leverage new technology. So we like to say Facebook and Twitter. The QSAA is extremely prominent on these two social media sites. You will always know what we're involved in. You will always know the programming that we're putting on. So I really encourage you to follow us or like us if you're able to, and then you're always connected with what's going on campus. And then one of the big events for this weekend, the Online Volunteer Opportunities Directory. Great resource for people to find out about volunteer opportunities that they can get involved with. So there's several opportunities here to make that connection and make that bridge. And I want to leave you with a thought before I finish. Due to geographical constraints, how can we leverage the resources and the assets that we have in this room now to better the future for future Queen's students? So I leave you with that thought. If you have any suggestions, I would love to talk about it over the weekend. And thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so first of all, it's great to be back here. I realize that I haven't been back at a Queen's Kingston event since the initiative campaign kickoff, which was a rather long evening, I seem to recall, with an incoming president or something. But it's great to be back here. I do pass through Kingston a lot on my way to Montreal, so it's wonderful to be here. And I've got to say that being in University Council is really, quite frankly, a lot like being on the alumni board, the QUAA board. We have great staff partners who seem to do an inordinate amount of the work. If I had somebody that did that much work for me in my real job, I would be really a star. So thank you to Celia and Christy, and also my partner here, Lon. When I was first when I was first running for University Council, my first job was to educate all the people to whom I reached out to vote for me about what University Council actually was. I found maybe 2 people who knew what it was, even though I sent them a long email explaining exactly what University Council was and why I wanted to be part of it. So we thought it would be a good opportunity in our 2.2 minutes to talk a little bit about University Council. It was established in 1874. If you need, take notes, feel free to take notes. But to me, the biggest excitement, and one of the reasons that I ran for University Council, was that I knew that University Council was going to be in a really big period of change. With the Board of Trustees trying to shrink back to a more manageable organizational size, the University Council, which was kind of a balancing point for that, also wanted to reform. Now, Bob Pritchard, who's here, and I'm sure could regale you with many tales of University Council reform over the years, played a key role in this, and what I will call successful reform, where we actually are going to go down to formally no more than 55 members when all is said and done. So this election, you saw there were 54 alum running, and only 6 were elected, and 8. And Jess, welcome to University Council in May, I guess. But when I ran, there were only 2 positions available, and I don't know how many people were running. So we're in a state of transition to try to bring the size down, and I think we're going to see lots of people running, and maybe not so many getting elected each time. So it's really becoming a more and more important and interesting game, because we are hoping that with a decrease in size, we get a significantly greater engagement. Council's responsibilities, okay, good, are established in the bylaws like any other good organization, whatever. Our big job is really to appoint the chancellor. That's one big job we have, and I was privileged to serve on the chancellor's selection committee this year, and it was kind of an interesting and somewhat bittersweet process, because in my tenure, my recent tenure involvement in Queen's David Dodge has always been there, and it will be hard when David Dodge is not there. But I'm looking forward to working with the new chancellor, working with Jim, and of course with the principal. We elect 6 members of the Board of Trustees, and we present the Distinguished Service Awards. So these are our key responsibilities, aside from being available to advise and counsel as requested, or sometimes as we request, the university and the administration. We meet annually. It seems to be moving around, but we're trying to move it back to the fall, so normally in the fall. And we're trying to offer some special purpose committees to our councillors to try to keep the engagement through the year, something that the QUAA and Alumni Relations has done, and obviously the QSAA as well, have done really good jobs with, and we are now entering into that fray too. I think there's a demand for information and constant communication, and it's amazing to me how easily you can become disconnected with the real story on campus and at Queen's in just a very short period of time. So from when I was president to when I became a university council, which was maybe, I don't know, a few months, I felt like a lot of things had changed in that time that I was not so aware of. So this is one of our real goals, partnering with all of these great people here on the panel.
All right, so I'm going to speak briefly, or try to, about Queen's governance structure in general. Yeah, I can go on and on. It's fascinating for me. I was a university secretary for another university before coming here, a younger university created by statute when an amount of maturity of understanding how universities work, I think, had been achieved. And so the province had a fairly good idea when they created enabling legislation to create that university as to how the structure should flow. So Queen's is fascinating for me as a scholar of governance and university governance in particular, because it evolved over time. It has a very unique beginning. It's not the only university created by Royal Charter, but it's one of the few universities which continues to exist under its Royal Charter. University of Toronto, for instance, was created under Royal Charter, but is now governed under a piece of provincial legislation. So Queen's continues to be governed by a charter which can only be changed by the federal parliament, which is also unique because education falls under the jurisdiction of the provinces under our constitution. So you see here that there are 3 bodies at Queen's which are involved in governance. And this is also a little bit unique in Canada as well. Having a board of trustees or a board of governors is fairly typical, as is having an academic senate. Having the university council is something that is unique to Queen's. When we were going through governance reform, we did look to other models across the country to see how do other people do this, and we really couldn't find anything that looked like what we had, so we simply had to build the best model that we could for this university. We are shrinking. The body used to be much larger than it is now. So it used to be comprised of the board and the Senate and then an equal number of elected alumni. So you're talking about a body that at its height would have been over 200 people. That makes it difficult for engagement, for constructive meetings where you can really dig into some complex issues. So I think reform is intended to achieve those objectives of really getting a focused group with deep knowledge about the university, and therefore an ability to provide really wise counsel back to the board and to the Senate around things that fall within their responsibility. We do have an executive committee on University Council, and it meets more often, at least 3 to 4 times a year, and as needed, it can conduct business in between meetings. For a body which only technically meets once a year, you need that just to keep the lights on, that sort of thing. But it's a great opportunity as well for additional engagement outside of that 1-year period. And we are also building other opportunities as well, which Heather spoke about. Briefly, for those who don't understand the governance structure of the university as well, the Senate does what you would expect it to do. It has a concern for anything that relates to the academic character of the university as a whole. And so it approves the programs and it awards degrees. It also has a unique function of superintendents and discipline over the students, which is not something that normally falls onto the Senate side when you look at our counterparts across Canada. And the Board of Trustees as well does, I think, what you would expect it to do. It manages the finances of the university, oversees human resources, and makes sure that, again, the lights stay on. University Council elects 6 members of our board. So our board also went through reform recently. It used to be a 44-member board. You can imagine a board of directors of 44 trying to run an organization. Again, difficult to engage, difficult to develop deep knowledge. A large sort of consultative caucus is really what ends up happening with a body like that. I think the board wanted to really take its governance rule to the next level, and so they've reduced to 25. So the power of the University Council to elect 6 of the 25 members of the board is really quite important. So previously it was 6 of 44. 6 of 25 is a substantial proportion, and it's therefore very important that this pool provides skills and expertise that can help the university achieve its mission and goal. It is necessary that you be an alum, under the definitions as Jess indicated earlier, to be a member of the council, and therefore it's necessary that you be an alum to fill one of those 6 spots. It's otherwise not necessary to be an alumnus or alumna to otherwise serve on the board, but as a practical matter, of the 10 seats on the board which are reserved for the board to make appointments to itself, 9 of our 10 individuals are currently alumni.
So if you decide to run for University Council, which I encourage people to consider in their opportunities for volunteerism at Queen's, you'll be elected now for a 4-year term. So it used to be 6-year terms. What we've done is change it to 4-year terms, and you can still have a total of 12 consecutive years, 3 consecutive terms. Take a year off, not like the U.S. president, and then go back again. So I always ask that question. Can Obama come back again after he's taken a break? So it's a shorter time frame, but we thought that would create more of an engagement, be more representative, and allow us also to look for expertise that we might be missing. In particular, we're going to be aligning very closely with the Board of Trustees in terms of what skills they may need, what kind of direction they're going to take. And they'll be looking to University Council and the University Council Nominating Committee, probably in specific, to try to find some of these people out there, either within the body or to try to get those people to run for University Council. So we are becoming, on some level, a feeder pool for the board, and also taking on much more, I think, we're going to be able to take on much more special advisory, special committee kind of work. Not that there aren't a lot of experts in the university community already, but to Judith's point earlier about the breadth, it's about the outreach capability, both in Canada and internationally. I think that the one thing that I would say is that there is a website like everybody else has it. It can be a little bit difficult to find, but I think they were going to include the address for you, because I always have a hard time finding the stuff that I want to find. But anyway, there is a website in the whole Queens U area, and if you look for University Council, you'll actually find it, and it talks about the various committees, the people who are serving, and probably pretty much more than you would ever want to know about that body. But most importantly, just that it is actually going through a lot of change, and I think you're going to hear more from us in the future.
All right, so just briefly, so the University Secretariat supports all 3 of the governing bodies, the Senate, the Board, and the University Council. And that's really quite powerful in terms of developing those alignments and linkages that we were talking about. In fact, the Senate appoints one of its own members to the council, and our senator councillor is here with us today, Dr. Jennifer Medvez. So it's having that that cross-constituency knowledge to put the right pieces together to help each of the groups successfully govern the university, I think is quite important. And so partners in that are here as well. Celia Russell, the Director of Operations, is also the Secretary of Council. So technically, I'm actually a stranger to Council. Celia is the Secretary, and Christy is the Secretary to the Executive Committee and Governance Officer. I think that's pretty much all we wanted to say. We're happy to take questions. We'll be around. And anytime you have an interest in the council, you can contact us. The Secretariat website has a substantial amount of information, so you'll find information about the council, the board, and the Senate there. Thank you.
So I'm going to do one rapid fire question before we wrap this up. So first off, thank you very much to our panelists. Given that there's obviously some partnership here between some organizations, if you could, in 1 minute or less, describe to the volunteer community that's here today, this is what the type of person that would like what we do looks like. And so perhaps it's someone who enjoys policy, perhaps it's someone with experience in X, something like that. If you could just summarize the type of person that would work well within your organization, and perhaps I'll pass it down to the team council to start things off.
For me, to get involved in University Council was an opportunity to continue an involvement at a different level. So definitely more governance. As I said, one of the attractions was the change, the reform planning was really key to me, and to have a continue closer connection with the governance of the university was very interesting to me after having served on the Queen's QUAA board. So that's the kind of person I think is going to be well suited to University Council in the near future, for sure, embedding that change in our alumni representatives to council.
Perfect, thank you. Jesse?
So for us, for students that we hire, the most important thing is that we have engaged students and that they also know the power of the alumni network and how many resources we can pull on. And then we also want people who are highly trained in communication and are able to go to events and hold a conversation, be able to talk to alumni.
That's good. I like that.
Not that all Queen's students can do that, but we really look for that as a skill for to see the success in our team move forward.
Perfect, thank you, Jessica.
I think from the QUAA perspective, there's a couple of different opportunities. People that really like to get engaged in their particular community, maybe want to be involved in a specific event building or reaching out to their alumni in their local geography, would really enjoy the branch network. A great way to get to know other alum that you maybe aren't as familiar with in your area and participate together in some sort of charitable event or organizing an event. In terms of the QUAA board, it's someone who's passionate about the Alumni Association overall. You may have a particular area of passion in terms of you want to be liaising with the branches, you want to be working with young alumni, you want to be on different committees. There's lots of opportunities there, but it's somebody who's also willing to look at the alumni involvement from a broader, more umbrella role, and not necessarily creating the flyers and putting them on the polls, but actually sort of looking at some of the policies and some sort of bigger initiatives as well.
So just to quote you, to use someone with a warm umbrella personality?
Yeah, if you can hug and you can do the oil fire, there's a good start, yeah.
Well, thank you very much to our panelists for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having us.